We have stealth aircraft. We've now got the revelations of invisibility, cloaking, i.e. Klingon cloaking, call it what you wanted, but even Gene Roddenberry knew about it back when Star Trek first began. By the way, he was an intelligence asset, and a little over 3 weeks ago, maybe you saw the article, Joe, but it was talking about the CIA having and the Pentagon having their fingers in 800 movies. Did you see that story?
Oh, yeah, and that's an understatement.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean.
Yep, and so nothing goes on the screen except it passed through them. And by the way, I just want to put this out. I apologize for the lateness of getting Forbidden History revealed, the Egyptian presence, the Americas, and the Pacific Rim, the Great Smithsonian cover-up. That's now up on Vimeo to go ahead and purchase, and all the people around the world. It saves trying to ship DVDs, and the trailer is up, so you can basically go and take a look at that. The trailer, God bless Gary C. He did a wonderful job on it, and it just because of a convergence of a lot of problems at a lot of time, but people are emailing me going, wow, because it is true. And, you know, for the first time in history, I don't think people understand this, Joe. If you prove, again, that there has been the greatest cover-up in the true history of the world, especially the Egyptian presence in the Americas, 235 years before the birth of Jesus, the picture begins to fill itself out as you watch what I would call the Circus Satanicus that's taking place in the media versus the real news that is coming out. The real news is this, that you can challenge the basic tenets of evolution. In other words, a paramecium didn't get together with a nematode, go out on a date and produce a little bunch of I can't say that word, little offspring that somehow grew up into us and create supercomputers. It isn't going to happen. But when you see the explosion in the Middle East of technology and science, and you go back to the Golden Age, when I define the Golden Age, I want people to understand, the Golden Age existed before the creation of Adam and Eve, when God destroyed the pre-Adamic, prior to the creation of Adam and Eve, the society. That's called the Old Earth. There are people that categorically reject that, yet they cannot account for the different artifacts and the technology that are found embedded in different levels. And so we're not talking about carbon-14 or argon-potassium dating. We're talking about oral tradition. We're talking about written tradition. And imagine, Joe, if we're being deceived on this, everything else. Now, again, we're being deceived by stealth deception and weaponized trust. I just gave you weaponized trust. There will be a complete divorce, a great divorce from empirical truth to what I would call consensual relevance. What you're seeing is in Islam, you're seeing consensual relevance. You're seeing the incredible and intrepid hatred for biblical Christianity and Jesus Christ. And any mention of Jesus or Christianity is challenged under a racist or white privilege, or you name it, all the different labels. And isn't it amazing? Those who protested the labels now use them so freely. So I think it's important that now also we're talking about super empowered individuals and the entities that are already aligning and amassing with the dragon and the beast. So we're talking about something that cannot be called linear wickedness, but exponential spherical wickedness, and I'll define that. Exponential spherical wickedness is acting on the globe, all consistently throughout the world. Something evil, it doesn't this way come, something evil has blasted through the last membranes that God in His mercy put out there to protect human beings from their ultimate slaughter. So now you've got the statement that you're going to basically see new humans that are synthetic supermen. And isn't all of the Marvel comics talking about that? Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely they are, and it is amazing. And this is what's so frustrating to me is to see this huge push, this huge increase in the acceptance of this technology from now expanding to the medical fields where we have electronic medical records, where they want to include that in this chip-like technology, to the learning artificial intelligence systems and weapons systems are creating this environment that is going to basically, as you said, the mark of the beast. It's the social credit scores tie into this. China is a great example of this. In one article I pulled up, China is quickly becoming an AI superpower. And if we look at what's happening in China, people are being basically blacklisted from society if they are not, wholeheartedly bought into this ideology of their anti-God communism. And that's the model.
Well, and not only is it anti-God, and that's critical, that's the basic foundational assault, but the idea is it's even more sinister, because just as we're talking about the synthetic supermen or superwoman or the superpowers, we're talking about shape-shifting matter. And when you're talking about shape-shifting matter, those of you who've seen, the Metal Man in the Terminator, whatever, number 2 or number 3, that's kind of what they're talking about. DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is talking about robots now that are shape-shifting. And I don't mean transformers. I'm talking about complete differentiation within the design parameters, the ability to bust those design parameters with AI. And so we're going to see something that's going to be unparalleled. We're going to have flash giants. We're going to see militaries. I believe we're going to see these things coming through dimensional doors, demonic entities, ancient animations, new life forms. In essence, it's going to be everything that Jesus said, that there's never been a time like it, nor would be again. And except the days be shortened for the elect's sake, there'd be no flesh left alive, no flesh left alive, no flesh left alive. It is difficult for people to get that, into their understanding, because what we're seeing is basically we're seeing a replacement creation that is very much taking on the life of its unseen masters, who seek nothing more than the destruction of humanity.
And that's exactly it. When these people say they're summoning the demon, that's exactly what they're doing. There is a RT report that mentions the weapons systems part of the AI, but it goes on to say that this is not just an instrument anymore of war. It's the mind. It's the psychotic mind, if you will. And I can't say this enough. Artificial intelligence, once they learn something, they don't forget. You can't call these back. The genie comes out of the bottle, just like toothpaste, you'll never get it back in. In other words, have fun stopping it. Once it gets started, everybody's in real danger. And I'd say we're already at that point. But
yes, we are. And if everybody gets one point tonight, Joe, we are already at that point. I talked to your dad, and I talked to him, and I've come to the I guess you'd say realization, or I've come to that point where I understand that there's really not much more that can be said. Again, what's critical, that we're in that time period where smarter non-Christian people are not only talking about the extinction of humanity, but embracing it. And I think it's important for people to understand that, when asked, Francis Fukuyama, one of the leading intellectuals of our day, was asked, along with several prominent other intellectuals, to identify the world's most dangerous ideas, he flat out said, with no apologies, okay, he talked about transhumanism. He described it as a movement to liberate the human race from its biological constraints. And he talks about, while a collective mind may sound interesting to the Borg, the hive mentality will do away with the individual and provide a robot orgy, that these are his words, that offer nothing to the thinking person. It's because the idea of a thinking person is anathema and foreign to these entities. They simply do not want anyone to think. They want them to be programmed automatons. And by the way, after 150 years, if you go to my website, I brought back a book. I reprinted a book called Giants and Dwarfs. and it's available on my website. It's an old book, it's a hardback, and I reprinted it as a hardback. I didn't do any editorializing, but I think it's really interesting because this is 150 years closer to the oral tradition and to the understanding. Now, when they talk about dwarfs, they're not talking about little people. They're talking about sub-little people, 18, 24 inches. Now, this is written 150 years ago, so that's available. And one of the things I think that is really critical for people to totally understand is there's a reason why, our film company, Gen 6, has been in Sardinia, been in Italy, been in Peru, and good night, Bolivia, at all these great places. And when I'm saying great places, these historically significant places. And in that Forbidden History Revealed, the Egyptian Presence, the Americas, and Pacific Rim, the Great Smithsonian Cover-Up, are eyewitness to the underground warehouses that Tom Horn and I have talked about on the Hagman Show, where basically they were watching, and my eyewitness was watching and being shown the extraction of DNA from giant mummies. Okay? Every day there's something new on Drudge about this species going to be brought back or this species. And so the thing is this is critical. And the first half of the DVD, Forbidden History Revealed, it talks about all the ancient stuff. Then it fast forwards to where we're at now, talking about the human hybrids and the chimeras that already exist in secret underground, bunkers, if you will. And so I would say this, it is categorically imperative that people watch this video because, as I said, when Antarctica hit the news and continues to hit the news, and then it morphed into Mars, and I basically said you're going to see this acceleration of ancient technology and ancient knowledge coming forth in the public psyche because it's being released and it's a form of conditioning. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I wrote on the book Terminated, a lot of people got upset because they said, well, that's so final. Well, hello, we're called the final generation, aren't we? And again, it's astonishing to me, and I can't use any other word, that when I really believe, Joe, people don't want to know the truth because Jesus said you'll know the truth, and he is the truth, and he'll set them free. I challenge whether people really want to be free or they want to indulge in their, what I would say, feel-good group hug and just hope that Jesus comes back before, quote-unquote, this is what I'm told, all the really bad stuff happens. And when I tell people all the really bad stuff has already happened and you're in the targets and the sites, then they try and cop out with me on a religious argument and say it won't work. Whether you like it or not, someone's already got your DNA. So on the tombstone, Terminated, the end of man is here, I put, here lies the human race who refused to recognize their end when it stared them in the face. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a well-footnoted book, but again, I've got to share this. It is so critical that people grasp this because the importance, I simply cannot, what would I say? I cannot overemphasize how important this is, and that's not bravado. It's not a pitch in the book, but when you're 25 years in the future, and by the grace of God, no matter what those who want to argue that I'm always wrong say, nobody was talking about robot sex when I wrote Genetic Armageddon. Maybe in a joke or two, but it didn't enter in. And now you're at the point where the first robot sex brothel opened up, and what has happened is that you're seeing, if you will, the introduction of a population-free future, and this is something that the designers of global death want. They do not want human beings reproducing unless they're genetically altered in the lab and pre-programmed on a molecular level. Now, that's scary as heck, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely it is.